How we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, welcome back to another video. So patch 10.2 is right around the corner at this point, and by the time you're watching this, it could even be out. So it's time to do my Super Goblin Gold Guide for patch 10.2. This should hopefully include something for everyone. This is going to be a short list of, I believe, about 10 different ways you can go out there and make some gold in patch 10.2. Some new things, some old things, but either way, these should be something in there for you. The first one I want to have a little bit of a look at is some of the new PvP patterns. Each and every time we see a new major content patch, and more importantly a new season, Blizzard implements a new range of PvP patterns, and your blacksmiths, your tailors, your leatherworkers are able to get their hands on these and start crafting them and selling them. Now you've got two different options here from a gold making perspective. If you're reasonable at PvP, you could try your hand at some PvP and try and actually get your hands on some of these recipes in the first place. In the first few days of the patch, they are likely to sell for a pretty penny. These are often rewarded just by winning in basic PvP. You do not need to be doing anything particularly special, but of course it does require you to go out and play some PvP. Alternatively, you could head to the auction house and try and pick up some of these early recipes of those that have done the hard work in PvP in the first place, and you could look at crafting some of these up and trying to sell some of them on the auction house. Now, historically, things like cloaks and rings tend to do very, very well at the start of the patch, as they are pretty much suited for everybody. But if you can get your hands on any of these, expect to sell full sets of these to certain individuals. And yeah, as historically has been proven, this can be a nice little earner for you at the beginning of a patch. Next thing I want to look at is the new shipments turning up in patch 10.2. This was a new feature that was added and is part of the Emerald Dream, and is something that players are going to look to utilize each and every week, at least for the first few weeks for sure, as a way to get access to some extra seeds, to get access to some extra reputation in the new Emerald Dream. These are going to require you to turn in a whole fistful of materials, and in some cases quite large quantities of these materials as well. Now, the likelihood is due to the fact that it does give you a short list of about 6 different turn-ins that you could choose from. People are going to choose different things, but the likelihood is that any of the materials that are focused on in that given week are likely to see a little bit of a higher price and potentially higher demand on those items, and you might be able to sell a bunch of them quite quickly. Now, whether you are going to choose to buy up a bunch of these materials ahead of time in speculation of them going up is entirely up to you, but the best case scenario regardless is that would showcase to you what might be a good item to farm and try and sell. It'd be a good time to clear out those guild banks and get some of that spare material sold, as you know full well for that week alone there's going to be quite a big demand for those materials. Next on my list, I want to talk about Dracothists. Dracothists are still a thing in patch 10.2. They have not gone anywhere. The Dracothist cooldowns with alchemy are going to be big business, I would imagine, and players have chosen to, in many cases, set up multiple alts with alchemy because, of course, you are limited by the cooldown of it. Crafters are going to, or should I say, people trying to build their crests are still going to need Dracothists to do this, and so just like patch 10.1, I suspect this will be a big business. You can set up your alchemist with the Dracothist transmute pretty quickly. If you're doing this on an alt, you only need to get to renown 12 with the Niffin, which can easily be achieved in 45 minutes to an hour of doing the campaign, and then you need to get yourself 1 Ponzo cream to purchase the recipe. This can be purchased for either 25 bricks or 10 boulders. Now, if you've completed the Niffin up to max previously, you could even look at buying some of these boulders for the low cost of, if I remember correctly, 100 Dragon Isle supplies each. This could be a slightly quicker way for you to get those alts with alchemy up and running. In similar vein to something that you can do sort of daily is the skinning. I did a little video on this just yesterday, in fact. Skinners have access to a new rare skin. So if you've spec'd yourself into the bait specialization, you need 50 points in the bait specialization, 10 in the main node, and then 40 in, I believe the node is called Mastery, and that should give you the ability to summon the rares over in the Emerald Dream for the chance at your Dreaming Antler fragments each day. Same sort of theory as the Dracothis. Some people have set up multiple alts to do this on to increase your daily chances. Now, only time will tell how lucrative these antlers become, but they are used in some of the new recipes that are showing up in patch 10.2, so there's likely going to be big demand and quite likely some pretty good supply of these as well from all the skinners out there. Alternatively, you could also pair up Tailoring. Tailoring still has its daily cooldowns for Chronocloth and Azurweave. Probably not anywhere near as lucrative as it once was earlier in the expansion, but if you've got that spare profession slot, it's a pretty quick and easy thing to level up. And you can, a small trip to the 2 crafting tables once a week can get all of your cooldowns used in one go, and you can sell your cloth cooldowns, usually for a little profit. Now, we did mention Dracothis earlier, and of course one of the key components of Dracothis is glow spores. Glow spores are still going to be needed in vast quantities by all of those alchemists, and so farming glow spores could still be a very lucrative thing for you. Your herbalists and miners are going to be responsible for doing this. Now, historically, most people have chosen to stick into the Zaralet Cavern for doing this. Now, glow spores do drop in the new zone, but this is where a little bit of testing might need to be done, as I suspect that the cavern is probably actually still the better place if you're focusing on getting those glow spores. With the addition of Pathfinder introducing regular flying into patch 10.2, your mileage may vary with which flying method you prefer, but I suspect that glow spores will still be in big enough demand that if you've got that herbalist and miner, you can make a pretty penny from doing some of this. We mentioned earlier the new embellishments. There are a handful of new embellishments turning up in the new patch. Tailors, jewel crafters, and leatherworkers are responsible for making these. And as we know, historically, these are also big business at the beginning of a patch. The recipes for these are in similar fashion going to drop from the raid, so do not expect to see these turning up in the first week of patch 10.2, but the very second people get access to the raid, expect to start seeing these patterns show up on your auction house. If, of course, you are out raiding yourself and get lucky enough to get the pattern, congratulations, maybe get some of these crafted and sell them on the auction house. There'll be plenty of players waiting for them. Alternatively, if you're like myself, who probably won't be raiding, you can turn to the auction house, as I'm quite sure somebody will be very, very willing to sell these new recipes from day one of the raid being available on the auction house, of course, if you're willing to pay the price. I wouldn't necessarily recommend paying too much for these, as it's going to be a market that will be an absolute boom to begin with, but the more you pay for your recipe, the more profit you need to make before you break even. So there's a little bit of a risk buying the pattern there, but these new embellishments should be big business at the start of the patch. Another crafting way is for your enchanters out there. This is very similar to patch 10.1. Crafters are still going to be responsible for making all of the crests. Now, the recipes for these crests are going to be what we believe zone drops in the Emerald Dream. So get yourself over there on your enchanter in the first week. You should be able to do a little bit of the content over there, and you should be able to pick up the 3 new recipe to craft everybody their enchanted crests. The market for this is probably something that you want to get your name out there on your server if you can, because you probably want people to eventually just send you personal orders to make these, rather than them having to try and find somebody in trade chat or trying their luck with public orders. If you can get your name out there as the enchanter in either your guild or, better still, your server, you should see a steady flow of people wanting these crests made. And of course, as long as there are a few tips coming your way, you should do quite well off this. Now, an interesting new one actually is that the Emerald Dream is dropping BOEs this time round. They're not super high item level BOEs. I mean, they're good by patch 10.1 standards. I've seen 415s, 421s, 424 gear dropping in the new zone, which is, after a few weeks, probably not going to be the highest of item level, but it's going to be fantastic for alts. Throwing these up on the auction house early days, if you come across any of them, there's a very, very good chance that low-leveled alts or people that maybe are just returning to the game and haven't done much gearing recently might be very interested in these. At least for the early days and weeks of the patch, this is likely to be some of the highest item level gear that will be directly purchasable from the auction house. They don't drop very frequently from my little testing of the Emerald Dream, but you should get 1 or 2 of these on your travels, and obviously you can decide, do you use them for yourself and your own alts, or do you throw them up on the auction house to try and make some gold from them? That choice is yours. And finally, this is maybe not necessarily the most lucrative thing, but of course we are getting an additional entire zone, and with that does come yet more dragon races and yet more world quests, actually now meaning that if you are to stack up and calculate just how many dragon races and gold-based world quests you can complete each week, I've calculated it to be about 20,000 gold per week per toon, which if you have an alt army can add up quite quickly. There's obviously quite a bit of time that is going to be, needed to work through all of these dragon races and world quests, but it's very casual. You can do it entirely at your leisure, and it's something that many people enjoy just, sort of casually doing in between dungeon queues, in between arena queues, or even casually whilst they're watching Netflix on another stream. So there we go, boys and girls. That's a little short list of gold making opportunities in patch 10.2. Once the patch has been out for a week or 2, I may look to do an update of this in case there's anything secret and anything cool that we may have missed in our initial testing of the zone. But I wish you all well. Good luck in patch 10.2. I will be streaming most of my play of this over on Twitch. I'm also now streaming simultaneously on YouTube, so you can catch me here as well if you wish. But boys and girls, if you liked the video, give it a like. If you're new around here, consider subscribing, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.